Welcome to Fun with Annuities, where every single week I welcome a celebrity guest expert that can help you maximize Chapter 2 of your life. Listen, learn, laugh, and love every minute of the most unique financial podcast on the planet. Let's get to it. Welcome to Fun with Annuities. I'm your host, Stan, the Annuity Man, licensed in all 50 states, as you well know. Thank you for joining us, all of our YouTube viewers and podcast listeners across the fruited plain. I'm very happy to have a special new guest on the program, Pam Krueger. She is the founder of Wealthramp.com. We're going to get into that in detail and ask her how that flight is from San Francisco back to Cape Cod every other day that she flies back and forth, because that's where she kind of lands. But welcome to Fun with Annuities, Pam. Thank you for joining us.
I love being a guest on your show. This is great. I'm just smiling the whole time.
Well, you know, as people know, we have a bunch of listeners out there. This isn't all about annuities. I mean, I put out enough content. If they want to learn about annuities, they're going to do that. But really what we want to talk about today is you and the company that you founded and the fork in the road moment that made you do this. You know, a lot of us went through that 2008 weird time period. Wealthramp is a very interesting company. I know people are leaning in, wanting to know a little bit more. So I'm going to let you tell them the story about Wealthramp, and then we'll start digging in from there.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So let's start with what is Wealthramp. So when I do talk about how it happened and how I gave birth to it, why it mattered, I needed to solve a problem. I needed to solve a problem I did not want to solve. I feel like Stan, the annuity man, when it comes to financial advisors, seriously, it's the same thing. You and I are doing the same thing, but in different areas. Yeah. You saw a problem. You saw a knowledge gap. You saw how there was this huge disconnect.
Right.
And you saw where there are good annuities, and annuities are nothing but a tool.
That's right.
And it depends on when you need that tool. And then there are bad tools.
Right.
Same thing with the world of financial advice. Financial advice is an industry. It is not to be confused with a profession. It's not a doctor. It's not a lawyer. There's no medical exam. There's no license. It's literally the bar to entry is pretty low. And as a result, you have 500,000 individuals running around the United States who self-identify as, I am a financial advisor. Oh, really? Are you really? So the problem that I saw that needed to be solved, how do you organize this hodgepodge mess? How do you separate the business models first and foremost? Mm-hmm. And so what I created with Wealthramp is a service, an online service where people can come knowing that they're going to be introduced, if they so choose to want to work with an advisor. Don't go anywhere but me, because I'm going to do everything I can to protect you, just like you do with educating people about annuities. So when you come in to Wealthramp and you come through the front gate, I'm going to ask you some questions. You're going to answer those questions if you think you want an advisor. I'm not going to tell you that you need one or you should have one. I'm going to help you if you think you're ready for an advisor. And I'm going to take you through, and I'm going to wind up matching you, referring you to as many as 3 advisors who I have personally vetted myself. I've got 240 plus advisors in the network, or 248, something like that, in the network. Mm-hmm. They're a constellation of different expertise, different types of clients. And when people come to me, they come to me because they say, I don't want to walk into a brokerage firm and get who I get. Right. You need to get an advisor who's going to fit your specific situation, because we know advisors are not all the same. Now, who are these advisors? They are vetted fiduciary. You know, we've heard this F word a million times.
Yeah, I'm going to have to talk to you about that real quick, but that's okay.
Yep. Feeonly advisors that Pam Krueger has vetted herself. Why? Because I'm paranoid. I can't have an advisor associated with my name, and I can't have any consumer, individual person, employee of a company come in to Wealthramp and meet an advisor who I have not personally vetted and continue to revet year over year. Now, the reason that I did this, and the reason I say it the way I say it, is this solving of this problem, it isn't something I ever wanted to do. If you had told me 10 years ago that today I would be making referrals for financial advisors, I would have been like, whoa, whoa, whoa,
Well,
whoa.
and if people say, wait a minute, she looks kind of familiar. I mean, she had a long-running, very successful PBS show. I believe it was called Money Track. And, you know, Money Track, and then you're on track, and now you're on this track. But getting back to the fiduciary thing, and I have my own opinion about this, is I think that every single person in the financial advice business should automatically and voluntarily and instinctually be a fiduciary, which the translation is putting people's best interests ahead of yours. It scares me just a little bit that there's a plaque that could be hung on the wall that says fiduciary or something like that, or something you can put on a card. Because if that's the case, I'm just going to put something on my wall that says really good guy.
I've been validated.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. How do you overcome that? Well, you know, would Bernie Madoff would he pass the fiduciary sniff test because he's a sociopath? I mean, I'm assuming, how do you get through that, I guess, objection, for lack of a better phrase?
Talk about the fiduciary
question. Yeah.
Fiduciary is not a frame of mind. Fiduciary is not a mood you're in. You don't wake up one morning, work at Wells Fargo, and say, I pledge allegiance to the fiduciary flag because, damn it, I believe in it.
Right.
That's not the way it happens.
Right.
The reality in the real world is fiduciary standard is a legal standard. What that means is that, remember how I said there's 500,000 self-described advisors? 90% of them are working at brokerage firms or insurance companies. That does not make them bad people or bad advisors. It means they're working for a business model that has consciously chosen to not be held to the legal fiduciary standard. So do I want the 90% of advisors that work at brokerage firms or insurance companies to advise me and they're not held to the fiduciary standard? Or do I want the minority of the 10% of independent advisors who the SEC in the state does?
What's the fiduciary standard? What's that bar?
I'll tell you exactly what it means. You are a client. You feel you've been harmed by Johnny Joe advisor at Merrill Lynch or any firm. I'm not picking on Merrill Lynch. Where I used to work, Dean Witter years ago.
Yeah, me and you both, Dean Witter.
The onus, or I should say the burden of proof that I've been harmed. You misrepresented. You sold me an annuity in my IRA account.
No, you can do that in an IRA, so stop.
And that was wrong.
No, it's not.
Well, I'm saying they sold me a high commission index.
Okay,
You
got it.
sold
Okay, got it.
bad.
Okay,
You did something bad.
Inappropriate. So, but I gotta dig in here, because why? What's the stand? You're saying standard, someone did something wrong. Let's just say a person, an advisor, wants to go to your network and they say, I want to be a fiduciary. I want to go through that process. I want to get that stamp of approval from your firm. How do they go about doing that?
They're not going to get it from me. They have to be legally held to the fiduciary standard by
how do they do that?
They have to register as an RIA, as a registered investment advisory firm. They have to register with the regulators.
And then what? You're an RIA, and then what?
And then you're held automatically to the fiduciary standard. And what that means legally is, let's get back to Mrs. Smith, who says that Johnny Joe misrepresented that annuity that I just mentioned. Okay, if under the non-fiduciary, the suitability standard, the brokerage firms adhere to, that means that the burden of proof for Mrs. Smith is Mrs. Smith has to prove that there was misrepresentation. On the fiduciary side, I'm wearing the fiduciary hat and I'm registered with the SEC or the state. The burden of proof, Mrs. Smith is feeling misrepresented here. She's gotten bad information from me. The burden of proof is on me. I am the RIA. I am the advisor. The burden of proof is on me to show that I didn't harm her financially.
So let me get this straight. Every single registered investment advisor is just because they've registered like that is a fiduciary, yes or no?
Correct.
Because of that,
No. It means that they're held to that standard.
they're held to that standard.
That's where the vetting comes in.
Okay, so you're taking the people that want to take it a next step. I'm already an RIA and I want to be vetted by Wealthramp to make sure that I've been stamp of approval from that. What does that process look like with you?
Okay, so I am not very nice. I'm pretty, no, I mean, I look at everybody like, look.
You pull background checks, you
registered,
pull all kinds of things. What do you do? Okay.
Yeah, that's the first superficial.
Sure.
That's the most superficial. I'm going to want to look at peel back the onion. I want to understand, way beyond, once I see you're squeaky clean, and once I see that you don't have any complaints, and once I see that you've been in business established as a fiduciary RIA for at least 5-10 years, I'm going to want to look at the whole firm. I want to look at everybody in the firm. I want to understand how you all came together. I want to understand your backstory. I want to understand the culture. I want to know what kind of software you use. I want to know how many clients you have. I want to know what your capacity is, what your retention rate is with your clients. I want to know that you can demonstrate to me that you do have proficiency in the areas where you say you're a specialist. And I also want to know that when you communicate with anybody who I'm going to refer you to, you're never going to have that arrogant attitude of, let me allow you to bask in the glow of my knowledge. Advisors' communication skills, styles, and I hate to just call it what it is, humility, and their love of their client and their ability to be flexible and meet the client where they are. That's what defines what fiduciary best practices means. There's fiduciary and it's legal. I certainly wouldn't want an advisor for my mother who is not going to be, she's deceased, but I mean, let's just, this is just hypothetically. If the advisor is not a fiduciary legally, but then beyond that legal, you're in the realm of X factor stuff. Like what else matters? I want to make sure that they actually behave to the highest bar of fiduciary standards so that I can say, I am so proud of this advisory firm. I am proud to say that I can refer a client to this advisor.
So you approve them, they go into your approval network. Do you what's the follow-up? What's the oversight? What's the ongoing vetting look like?
I know them, and every year I revet them and look at them and look at their updated ADV, ask questions. They keep in touch with me. They're talking to me all the time. They're talking to my team all the time. So I know when somebody's mother has died. I know when something has happened in the office and the administrative assistant is now going to be replaced. So we know a lot about the firms. I'm not looking to add on a lot of new advisory firms. It took me 3 years to curate this network.
Did you say fee-based or fee-only?
Only.
Yeah, let's explain that real quick. For people out there, fee-only are people that do not sell product. There's a lot of people double dipping that will say, I'm a fee-based advisor, and then all of a sudden you sit down and they're trying to sell you some annuity product that you shouldn't own, a very complicated one. That's a fee-based. They're double dipping. They're charging a fee and they're selling product. What Pam's talking about here is a fee only, where they're not doing that. They're literally charging a fee on the assets. And while we're on fees, let's dig in. Can you kind of explain the fees?
Yeah, and I'm going to circle back to a couple of quick little things. Yes, I'll explain the fees. The fee only means that when people think of fee only, I want you to think of it as they're only paid by the client. They do not accept any kind of placement fees on real estate deals. There's no backdoor deals going on. They literally work for you, the client, and only and directly for you. So you're on the same side of the table. And they become your advocate. Okay, so there's no such thing in my world as fee-based.
And we work with hundreds of fee only advisors that obviously don't sell annuities, but that trust us to
Right.
place them. I
Right.
did one this morning with a fee only that the annuity was suitable, and they know that we're going to do exactly what they want.
Exactly. I just got off the phone with one myself. We were just in a conversation. I just referred him to the two things I want to bring up really quickly is
Sure.
I want to circle back to when you mentioned Madoff and fiduciary.
Yep.
Bernie Madoff wasn't registered until he was.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
So no, he wasn't held because the regulators didn't even do their job in making sure that he was registered. Now, number two, if he had registered, then yes, he would have been. And I don't know if any regulator would have looked at the fact that he was actually taking the money. One thing, Stan, that people don't get straight because they don't know. You're not giving your money to the advisor.
Right.
That's what people did with Bernie Madoff. They wrote the check to him.
If anyone ever tells you to make the check out to them, don't make the check out to them, please.
I mean, your money is held at Schwab. Your money is held at Fidelity. It's Vanguard.
Pershing,
it's a custodian.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You are paying for advice and guidance. Okay, now I got that clear. How much are you paying? It doesn't have to be assets under management. I just got off the phone with an advisor that I'm just bringing on in Texas, and he's a PhD. He's way overeducated, and he's really good at what he does. He's been in the business for 20 years. He loves his clients, and he does a lot of portfolio management and financial planning. And I just asked him, I said, Andy, if I have a client that comes to you and they have $500,000 or $1 million or whatever it is, and they don't want their portfolio managed, would you be able to work on a retainer fee? Of course. Yes. Flexible. So what they do, every really good fiduciary, or again, vetted fiduciary, is going to, I don't know if they're saying, whether it's AUM or whether it's retainer or whether it's hourly, it's all going to come down to the same formula: time and complexity. How much time does my team and I have to put into this client case per year based on complexity?
Mm-hmm.
That's it. If you pay it on an assets under management because you're having your portfolio managed, that fee, even if it's a retainer fee, will be about the same because it's time and complexity. That's the formula that's used.
And me and you both were around back in the day when the whole assets under management, charge a fee for everything, was introduced by the brokerage firms, because I was with, like you, Dean Witter, and then Morgan Stanley, Payne Weber, and UBS. I remember when that was the push to wrap everything. And I always tell people the only reason that the brokerage firms were doing that was to track future revenue. They could give a crap about anything other than tracking future revenue. Otherwise, why would you wrap bond portfolios?
Exactly.
It's nuts. So that it's a business model that's gotten out of hand. And I think that what's happened is it's forced people like you to create alternatives for people that, other than the big marble buildings where you walk in and we used to call it broker of the day. You were broker of the day. So whoever walked in, you got that whoever rookie was that got broker of the day.
And you and I were broker of the day.
I never took those. I never did those. I never took those. I was like, I don't want to do that. Oh, okay.
Started when I was 24 years old.
That's true. That's true. That was just a few years ago, right?
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you. So listen, what I want to tell you is that I'm not trying to make people bad that work at brokerage firms and insurance companies, because people get mad at me and they email me. I say, it's not you, it's the business model.
Yeah, it's broken.
The business model is
broken. Yeah, the old is broken. How do you make money, Pam? I know you're a philanthropist at heart, but there's a vein of capitalism running through your veins as well. How does Wealthramp make money?
I have to get referral fees I want to get referral fees, and I expect after all this work I've done that I'm going to get a referral fee, but I don't want the referral fee until after the relationship has not only landed safely, but they're off and running in probably about 3 months. I don't collect it. Now I'm going to tell you a little funny secret. I shouldn't be saying this in case but this is the truth. I don't have any way to audit the advisors to see their accounts.
It's an honor system.
It's a flippin' honor system.
There you go.
So the integrity. So these advisors want to pay me because they want to stay in my good spaces. So a lot of times I get phone calls from the advisors and they'll say, Pam, did Mrs. Smith, show up in your system? Because she came to us and I want to make sure Wealthramp gets the credit.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes that somebody can slip through by mistake
Oh,
and
sure.
that's fine. But
Sure.
it really is an honor system. That's how I get paid, but it works out great.
And it's an honor system that I'm assuming, and I know this is true, you're just going to verify it. That's the advisor paying the fee out of their own pocket. They're not, if I'm not
We
mistaken.
have a contract they cannot change or alter or bump up the fee
Bingo.
because of that. They have to pay marketing expenses no matter what, anywhere.
Of course.
And
of course.
that we like working together and so forth. So it's a good relationship. But I'll tell you one last thing about the way that I came to this. So here I am, and I'm producing and co-hosting Money Truck, and I'm loving it. It was so much fun. John Bogle was a regular. We're in 255
Sure.
stations. And I have all these people after 2008, 9, 10, and into 17. And they're saying to me, Pam, you're negative Nancy about financial advisors in general. But what if I want one? Aren't there any good ones? I went to NAPA. I don't know how to choose. I'm like, oh my God. And I love NAPA.
Sure.
I was
National Association of Financial Advisors.
Yes. I was the recipient of their Special Achievement Award 2 years ago. Great organization. But the typical person who's coming to look for an advisor, their eyes are going to glaze over, and it's not meant to be a referral.
Yeah, it's hard.
So one woman viewer said to me, if you don't give me a name of an advisor, I feel like you're kicking me to the curb, because I'm going to end up going back into the waters where the sharks are.
Yeah.
And I need someone to hold my hand. And I thought to myself, how do I do this at scale? Because what if that woman has a child on the autism spectrum? And even if you had the best, most general NAPFA advisor in the world, if that advisor's never seen a special needs trust, it's not fit.
That's true.
So that's why I kind of said, oh my God, I don't want to do this. But you know what? I think I'm going to do it, because I kept saying, if 97% of advisors who live and breathe in the United States can't pass my vetting, why don't you celebrate the 3% who do and can? And that's what I did. I turned negative Nancy upside down. And now I'm in love with doing this. I'm in love with it.
That's a strong statement. Where do you see it going? I mean, 10 years from now, we're on the Fun with Annuities podcast. Obviously, I look exactly the same and you look younger. What's gonna happen? Where are we at with Wealthramp?
I want to dominate this industry. I want people to sort of say to themselves, yeah, that's a fiduciary advisor ostensibly, and they're fee only, but have they been vetted by Wealthramp? Do they that's really where I wanted to go. I want people to know that there's someone out there who is vetting these advisors, sorting them, categorizing them, organizing them, so that when you want to meet an advisor and you have $250,000, I'm not going to introduce you to an advisor who's going to say, I'm sorry.
I think it's really interesting, because I have been in the brokerage firms and the big buildings and worked in World Trade too, and it's before it fell. I call them masters of the universe, and they think that yes, they do know where rates are going, and yes, they do know where markets are going, and yes, they don't. But the interesting part about it, there is a humbleness to go through a vetting process. It almost tells you that fee only advisor does not think they're master of the universe, because a master of the universe narcissist advisor is never going to let Pam look under the hood. They're going to say, Pam, schmam, I don't need a Pam. I'm master of the universe. A person that really has their heart in line with it as an advisor, they're going to say, yeah, I'd like a second pair of eyes in this, and I'd like to be a part of that in a group setting of Wealthramp advisors that kind of have their egos in place. Am I right about that instinctually?
That's what I meant by that's exactly what I mean by the humility. You nailed it. It's what I call the X factor. Does it make a difference? Oh yeah.
It almost, if a person applied, now I mean, your vetting's tough and not everybody makes it through, but just applying tells me something about that advisor. Just them wanting to meet, in my case, well, no, let me rephrase it. I know there's the the marketing sociopaths that just want to get the leads and run.
Yeah.
But that's an easy one to vet. I'm just saying people that really want to go through it and be analyzed with a fine-tooth comb by someone like yourself, that's a different cat. Or
Not only that,
different
Pam, but
cat.
they want to be on the mission to educate. They really do. They want to be, it's just like with you with the annuities. And by the way, when I was just talking with Andy, the new advisor that I just brought on in Texas, you know, I asked him the same question. One of my vetting questions is, now, what do you do when a client really does, really an annuity is going to be the right answer?
Sure.
And they all say the same thing. We work with, you know, very low cost, low fee.
Sure.
We, you know,
Yeah.
they don't sell it. They don't get commissions. But wouldn't you rather have someone evaluate and tell you if you're overinsured or underinsured, or if annuity is good, someone who doesn't sell annuities for a living? I mean, that's what's beautiful about this. But I think that this kind of advisor in my network, they probably would never touch an annuity. Wrong. As Stan, the annuity man, says and has taught us, annuities are a tool. They need to be
contracts. Some people need them. Some people don't.
That's
Now,
right.
we talk a lot. You throw around the word holistic advice. I feel like I'm laying on a table getting a rub down and get my spine readjusted. That's not what we're talking about, right? Holistic advice. It sounds pretty earthy, Miss Pam.
It's not earthy crunchy. It's practical. Okay. If I'm going to talk to you about investments, like back in my Dean Witter days, how am I going to have an intelligent conversation with you and go straight to the talk about where your next investment should be or might be, when I don't even know your cash flow? I don't know your real estate. I don't know how much debt you have. I don't know your husband's situation. Oh, you didn't tell me that you were in the middle of a divorce. Oh my God. If I don't know holistically the whole pizza, I want to.
So there's no candles. See, to me, holistic means I'm lighting candles. That's what that means.
You could do that too.
Annuity candles. But what you're saying is all encompassing. They're looking at the whole picture and basing the, you know, all the recommendations and advice on that.
It's like I'm like the stupid queen of annuities. I swear to God, I drive people nuts.
I give that award every year. You're up for it.
I got it. You got a sweater. You pull on the thread over here. What does it do over here? It's just, you can't touch this over here without affecting tax planning over here. Absolutely. And if you do, then you're not doing it right. You're doing back what we used to do when we were in the Dean Witter days. And by the way, I want to defend one thing about the brokerage business that we worked in. We, before the internet, we had a purpose. And what was our purpose? Our purpose was we had information that you guys didn't have. And we gave you access to information through our Bunker Ramos and through our magical tools where we checked with our research department. And then guess what happened? Along came a brand new thing called the internet, Yahoo Finance, Google. So nobody needed that information anymore.
I was there during the go-go times like you, when there was internet, you know, the IPOs. And all I need to tell people is the person, and me and my partner within that region were in charge of all the IPO allocations, which means we were powerful, but they called it syndicate managers. Syndicate. You remember that? Well, you know, you're the syndicate manager for the region. That sounds like the mafia. Back in the day, it kind of was, you know, because advisors would be like, you know, I need this and that. No, it's just such a broken business model. The only thing I just wish I kept all that Dean Witter and Payne Weber swag.
I know the swag was pretty good.
Swag was pretty good, because it would be like if you're walking through an airport with Dean Witter on, people are going to look at you and go, first of all, who's that? And the people that know are like, holy crap, you're old. Because you've been socks and stocks, man. I remember that back in the day, right?
Yeah, when they bought Sears. Yeah, that was a good fit.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was great. Go into Sears, and when people walk through looking for tough skins for their kids, try to sell them a mutual fund. Obviously, I did not participate in the Sears model. They're like, Stan, but you have to. I said, listen, I don't have to do anything. I'm not, you know.
You got to give them credit for trying, okay? But, you know, over the course of time, you know, as the internet replaced the need for the information keepers, and then the robos came along, what happened? It was only about 10 years ago, everybody. It was only about 10 years ago. Advisors at the brokerage firm started to call themselves advisors. They were called brokers. We were called I was a broker.
I was a broker. I was a when I first started, it said stockbroker.
Right. I was a stockbroker. And then magically after the internet, it was like, I got an idea.
I was a wealth
Let's be
architect after
advisors.
that. I was an architect. Wealth architect is what they started calling us
Wealth
at like Morgan
engineer.
Stanley or something.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Architect.
And then the SEC said, and to make things really clear, let's spell ER versus OR, advisors.
Oh gosh,
versus
I remember
advisors.
that. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I remember those days. And the reason that we're talking about this, not because we're like skipping down, memory lane like the Wizard of Oz, is to point out that that business model still exists to this day.
But they're now called advisors.
And the payout structures with these big firms are based upon ratios and things that you sell that they want you to sell, whether it's a credit line or a mortgage or whatever the mutual fund is, the family mutual funds. It's not as autonomous as it once was, which is the reason I'm no longer there. Because back in the day, if you wanted to just be a municipal bond specialist, you could.
Yeah.
Or a closed-end bond specialist, you could. Or a preferred specialist, you could. You could just build your business. No more. That does not exist, and they want you to wrap it. And they don't want small accounts, which leads me to my next question. People out there, and I grew up without money, so the levels of money to me don't matter. If it's important to you, it's important to me.
It's even more important when you have less of it.
I just, listen, I always say billionaires started at zero, most of them, okay, unless you're a trust fund baby. But most really rich people, millionaire next door type people, built it, and they didn't have a lot of money. With your network at Wealthramp of these vetted fiduciary advisors, fee only, are there minimum account sizes, or is it just up to each one of the advisor on how they run their business?
Yes and no. I have a constellation. I have to have an array of different advisors with different types of clients. I have advisors whose typical clients are 40 million. I have advisors who have clients with zero minimum, zero.
Love it.
So
Love
they help, and a lot of the advisors I can call right now. I can tell you this right now. If I picked up the phone and called Bob Carroll, or if I called Jeff Wright, I would like, I have someone who's in the military who didn't have, who had very little, and they were older. They were worried, really worried about how they're going to make everything work. Get on the phone, and I call this advisor. He's a former Army Ranger. All I had to say was he's a military service member, and he's really concerned. We got this. Say no more.
I'm the same way. I have a brand new sales assistant that's fantastic, and she came in just very sheepishly the other day and said, this person just doesn't have a lot of money. Do you want to take the call? I went, absolutely, man. Are you kidding me? I'm from rural North Carolina, for God's sakes. I mean, yes,
the people that I want to reach and help the most are those people who have, between they've saved maybe $250,000 and they're 60 years old. Those people can't afford to make a mistake, and they are so disappointed by their experiences with advisors. You guys all have had these experiences where your expectations are so tamped down. You're like this. You're like, oh, I want to see an advisor, but I don't want him to judge me. And I'm telling you, it's like this, your expectations need to be up here. Keep them up there nice and high, because no, you're not going to find this advisor at every strip mall down the street. But they do exist. They're hiding in plain sight. They're humble. They're damn good at what they do. And they do exist.
Yeah, I think that's very, very good to point out. Now, obviously, we're going to have a page for Pam and Wealthramp permanently on our site where you can go and connect with them, etc. We don't have any monetary connections other than I just high five her if I'm ever in San Francisco. I'll take her out to dinner, or in Cape Cod. But absolutely, man. Absolutely. Absolutely. But I do think that what I'm going to hopefully implore my listeners and viewers to do is please take this serious. Because this isn't Yelp for financial advisors. This isn't some made up thing out of midair, okay? This is taking financial advisors who've chosen to be fee only, which is a very good first step, okay? And then taking that person who has agreed to have an expert like Pam look at them and sign
Naked,
off on them.
naked.
Yeah, I mean, as they say in the South, when the water recedes, you see who's naked. And she's looking at them and saying, not only are their intentions good coming in, we vetted everything about them and the firm, and it's still good. And we're going to ongoing look at them. And I get so many calls from people that I really would just like a good advisor. Have you broken it down regionally, state by state? When people go to wealthramp.com, by the way, that's one word, wealthramp, RAMP.com. When you go there, can you say, I'm in Boise, Idaho? Is there anyone in Boise? How's
Yeah,
that work?
you really read my mind. By the way, yeah, we do in Boise, but you read my mind. When people come to Wealthramp and I have them fill out the survey questions that I need to be able to
By the
make
way, confidential, non-shared, no, don't sell it. They just take the
that's
information.
my point. That's how you know I'm not a lead generator. That's how
Yes.
you know it. Because what I do is I work with companies with employees and everybody's sensitive.
Sure.
People come through, it's private.
Right.
I don't want to share your information with advisors or anybody else.
Right.
I want to make sure that you're the one who has a one-way mirror. You get to see the 3 advisors I've referred you to. They can't see you. You have to be the one to initiate the communication.
Very nice.
And
Love
I'm
that.
right there. I give you the 2 questions that I want you to ask each advisor. Do you want me to tell you what those are real quick?
Sure. Because I have 2 questions too, as you know, but go ahead.
Okay. The 2 questions that I want everyone to ask after they've met a vetted advisor who passes my screening, then you can breathe, take your time, slow down. There's no rush. Be very thoughtful. Ask the question, number 1, can you tell me about who are your typical clients? Describe them and describe what are you doing for them? Like you're getting a fee year over year. What are you doing for them? Describe it. I want them to draw a picture for you.
Right.
And I want you to see if that feels like it fits. Second follow-on question is, please explain your fee arrangements. How do your clients pay you? And what does that typically amount to?
By the way, for people keeping score, my 2 questions are, what do you want the money to contractually do? And when do you want those contractual guarantees to start? That's my two questions, but it's in the same realm, which is just stripping away all the nonsense. Let's get down to business. There's no sales pitch.
I've committed those 2 questions about annuities to memory. And, no, seriously, because you're doing what we're doing is just such the same thing. We're taking
I just do it with a bunch of videos, and people like to see Southernisms and hear about my mom and all my clients, because all my ideas for videos come from my conversations with my clients. I mean, the best ideas come from that.
Absolutely.
I'm excited that we found each other. A little bit late, but it's early, right? That's what they say in the South. And we look forward to pointing people in your direction that need very good advice. And I'm going to tell people when I send them to Wealthramp, you can put your fist down. You put them down. No one's going to come at you. Just take a breath. It's going to be okay.
Take a breath and breathe out and take time.
And you're gonna find someone that fits. And I think I would assume the reason that you put 3 in front of people is you know that one of those 3 is going to be a fit personality wise or goal wise with that person. Is that correct?
I want you to have 3 for 2 reasons. Number 1, for that reason, but number 2, because even though it seems, I want you to have a conversation with more than one advisor. I don't care if you say to me, Stan, if you said to me, I am in love with Edge Capital and Kendrick, and oh my God, Pam, I don't want to talk to the other 2 advisors. If you talk to me, Stan, I'm going to say email or when we talk, I know, okay, but you're going to learn something. So
I agree with that.
Slow down. Just have the conversation with Eric or with Jolie as well, because you're going to hear things and you're now in a different frame of mind. You're no longer panicked and anxiety ridden. Now you're really taking it in. So that's why I think you learn more. And that's the last thing I'm going to say about one of the characteristics about advisors is the generosity of the knowledge share. Now, you're going to have some people who are going to say, I don't want the knowledge. I'm not
Sure.
interested. But really, what I always tell people, even when I have clients who come to me, and they might be really super busy, executive women in their 50s, and they might say, oh, I don't really want to know how the water comes out of the faucet, and I'm not
Yeah,
interested.
right.
And I say, and I'm going to tell you that I'm really good at what I do over here in marketing, but I know nothing about this. And I say to them, you know what? You're not going to recognize yourself in 5 years because your conversations are going to change. You're going to hear yourself becoming more calm, more confident, because whether you know it or not, the advisor was generous, was sharing nuggets of wisdom and knowledge. That's how you wind up with a good plan and a good strategy that you can believe in and stick with. We're not getting advisors because we want an advisor that we want to pay. We're getting advisors for one reason: peace of mind. I don't want financial stress. I want to know I've got someone to collaborate with that's going to actually, over time, I become more knowledgeable because you're generous with your knowledge share.
I like the passion. You can't hide passion. Obviously this is something that means a lot to you. I think both of us going through the brokerage wars and and we see how we don't really want it to be done. Nothing against those people, but there is a better way to do it. So one of the things I didn't tell you about early in this podcast, because I surprise all my guests at the end, is at the very end of the podcast, we're getting ready to close everything up, is I asked my guests, I'm going to give you a mic drop moment. I'll count it down from 5, and then you got to wow us in about 30 seconds with something about Wealthramp and you and what we've been saying. So you got to synopsize, and I'm not going to give you much time to prepare. Here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pam Krueger, go.
I just want you to be confident. I want you at the end of the day to feel comfortable and confident that you have a plan and that you have a strategy, that you have stress tested your worst money fears, and that you have someone with whom you can collaborate to do that. I know that I don't know, that's not a mic drop moment, but it's coming from my heart.
That is a mic drop moment. And that person is Pam Krueger, the founder of Wealthramp, who is changing lives, changing the industry, disrupting the financial services and financial advice industry, and will eventually dominate it. And this will be how it's done in the future. You're just seeing a very early glimpse of it because you're listening to Stan, the Annuity Man, and Fun with Annuities. I would like to thank Pam and all the people that joined us today, and I will see you next time.